Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
I'm Ian Richards, welcoming you to InFocus, a weekly program that takes a closer look at what's happening within and across the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. Well, land is one of our nation's most valuable and limited resources. It is central to housing, agriculture, commerce, infrastructure, and of course, economic growth. As the Federation continues its journey toward becoming a sustainable island state, responsible land management has never been more important. Today, we'll explore how the Ministry of Sustainable Development manages the country's land resources, from land allocations and regularization programs to title processing, dispute resolution, and of course, some of the current challenges, including the relocation of farmers from residential designated lands and efforts to ensure that land is used for its intended purpose. Well, joining us today for this important discussion are the Honorable Dr. Joyelle Clarke, the Minister responsible for Sustainable Development, and Sherilita Dore-Tyson, Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Sustainable Development. Stay with us for InFocus for a discussion on resolving land conflicts through partnership and planning.
Money is for buying snacks.
Kids have big dreams.
My mom says to save it.
Let's give them the tools to reach them.
I'm going to invest in something called stocks.
$1,000 easy dollars for every St. Kitts and Nevis youth citizen. Savings, investments, financial education. Sign up for Aspire at aspire.gov.kn because they deserve to dream smart.
Thanks, Aspire.
And welcome back to InFocus. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome back the Honorable Dr. Joyelle Clarke and PS Sherilita Dore-Tyson from the Ministry of Sustainable Development. Minister, the last time you were here, I told you it was about a minute. Actually, a couple of minutes, but I would say now it's a couple of seconds because you were here just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back.
Of course, we're always happy to be back. And as I said to you, Ian, that the ministry really welcomes the opportunity to share, to engage with the general public about what we're doing, whether it's in environmental land, and we made a commitment to come back here to talk only about land because we understand how critical it is to people's lives, their livelihoods, and their well-being. So we wanted to dedicate today to just that conversation.
Right, I made a promise and I was happy to be able to fulfill that promise that I made to the public. And I want to start there in the sense of the ministry's responsibility, their role and responsibility as it relates to land management here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay, thank you, Ian, for having me as well. Let me first say that the Ministry of Sustainable Development is the steward of the people's land. And so anything land related when it comes to the Crown lands, that is what the ministry's mandate is. Now, we had in 2022 into 2023, we introduced the land program, and that program is part of our overall framework of land policy. So we call it the National Physical Development Plan. Now, this plan designates lands for various purposes. So we have land for tourism development, we have land for agriculture, we have land for residential purposes, we have land for industrial use. We have various categories, about 6 different categories. And so we are responsible for ensuring that land is used for what it is designated for. If we don't do that, we're going to have some issues. So that is one of our mandates.
Yeah. And to add to that, Ian, we in the ministry, we do way more than land management. But as PS noted, using our national physical development plan, we understand where every piece of land in St. Kitts is and how it's needed for agriculture, how much they need, how much they have on the active cultivation, what's needed for development, what's needed for commercial work. But the important, even more important about land access, about land management rather, is land access. And the ministry from 2022 recognized one of our greatest challenge was fair access to land because of the problems we met when we came in 2022. We recognized that if we're going to meet the mandate of empowering a new generation of Kittitians, we needed to have access to land. If we're going to promote intergenerational wealth, people needed land, whether it's for your house construction or for business development. And if we're going to be part of the economic growth for St. Kitts and Nevis, we needed to make commercial lands and industrial lands available. And more importantly, to support the government's push for a housing revolution, we also needed to find suitable lands for construction of NHC homes. And so the ministry, in managing land access under my leadership, has been able to provide lands for all of these purposes, recognizing that it was a critical component of the development of St. Kitts and Nevis and the development of people and their lives here in St. Kitts.
What are the guiding principles of this national development plan that was mentioned, the NDPP, I think it's called?
Yes. As I said, it outlines the use, the land use. So we have land for various purposes. And so that is why if we have a crossover, we have to fix it. Because, for example, you can't go to Frigate Bay and have a, put animals. You know, the area is designated for tourism use. And so that is what we manage. Now, we are talking specifically about land today. So that's like a day's work. I'm telling you what happens in a normal day's work for me as a PS. When the ministry is faced with a land matter, what do? First of all, we categorize the land matter. Is it a relational matter? We have a lot of family issues. We have a lot of people building on the wrong land. So we categorize that. Is that meeting part of that? Or is it a titling and conveyance matter? So we have various subsets where we put the issue. Is it a regularization matter? Is it a disputes and legal matter? Is it a subdivision matter, or is it a supportive matter? So these are things that we would look at before to ensure we have good decision, efficiency in what we do. So we categorize the land matter that comes to the ministry. So if you come to see me, I'll decide which of these categories your issue would fall into, and then I'll act accordingly.
Right. Before we get a bit more into the categories of land use, as mentioned, of course, I did on the top, and was mentioned as well in your statement just now in your reply to the question. How does one balance the need for residential land as opposed to commercial land, as opposed to some other purposes, so for instance, a school? What factors are influenced there?
Well, a school, for example, will come under development. And that is a conversation between the Ministry of Education, if it's a school, between the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Sustainable Development. If you want land for commercial purposes, that's a conversation we will have with the line ministry and our ministry. So the land use, we get the support from the various ministry, because, for example, if you come and say the government wants to build a school, well, we have to liaise with education. How many students? What are your plans? Where do you want? We have to have these kind of conversations, and this leads us to the decision as to where the school will go.
And importantly, Ian, if I could just reference again your previous question about the NPDP. This is the second version, the second update of this actual development plan. So back when I was, I think, in I started my journey in physical plan in the Department of Physical Planning. We had the first iteration of the National Physical Development Plan. And since then, that's like 20 years ago, we knew that based on the population growth mapped over decades, that we would have this many young persons in St. Kitts and Nevis, which would require land for housing, or we would have population growing in certain areas, which would require residential lots. So we recognize, let's say, for example, the growth in the St. Peter's area. Everybody wants to live in St. Peter's.
I was just going to mention it, because as you mentioned, having that residential houses there, that's important. But then also there needs like a supermarket.
Right, and our planners in the Department of Physical Planning, along with GIS and Department of Lands and Surveys, they master plan all of St. Kitts and Nevis. So you know, based on a community, it needs this much commercial area versus this residential, or based on the general economic activity in the community, you would prioritize industrial activity, you would have housing here. Everything is planned, even down to the Whitegate Development Corporation and their area, their management of lands in the Whitegate area, which is the same for the Frigate Bay Development Corporation, but everybody's working in tandem with the National Physical Development Plan and the Department of Physical Planning to appreciate where land is needed. The challenge that we're having now is that St. Kitts, our topography is our topography. Sloping, gently sloping, and then mountainous. And we are a coastal nation. We've done all of the development on the coast. And now we have to appreciate that lands on the coast and flat lands have been exhausted.
Yes, we have exhausted.
And we are planning for this reality. We have been planning for this reality. And it's now to get the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to appreciate that land is no longer flat here on the coast. It's a little bit more mountainous. It's a little bit more expensive. It requires a lot more work on the ministries and the government's end and on your end to develop. But it's what we have available, because at some point it would have run out.
Yeah, and in addition to that, of course, we see that the coast itself is being intruded upon by the sea.
Of
based
course.
on rising sea levels, climate change. You can go just drive around the country. Just drive around the country and you see, well, it's practically like the water is in some person's backyard.
Certainly.
It wasn't like that like 20, 30
and we are moving many of the people, especially like in South Nevis, like in Sandy Point. We have to look, we realize the risk. So we have to be moving some people all road. We've been moving some people from that area as well and taking them up in the higher areas because of what we see is happening and will happen if we continue this trajectory. But let me also mention additionally that one of the challenges we face is that everybody wants to live in the Bastille area. And Ian, it doesn't take any rocket science to see that we have basically run out of Bastille space. And so I keep saying we have to start to think about rural living. And people come to the ministry, no, I'm from Newtown, and but there's no space. We don't have any more lands in the Bastille area. And so we are taking people into the country. And that has been one of our challenges.
Are persons, going back to the question with the coast, just quickly, are persons hesitant to move? Because especially those older persons, there is that familial bond. It may be a family home and they've been there all of their life. And so is it difficult to get persons to leave their home from the coast to relocate further inland?
I would say, and PS can bring the historical knowledge here, under the previous Labour administration, there was a push in the, I think it's Old Road area. And when Dr. Douglas was the Minister of Sustainable Development, all of those persons were assigned NAC house or land on the upper part of the road. And lo and behold, after a couple of years,
they moved back.
They moved back.
A lot of the people have moved back and rent their house, But that's all part of what we do.
Right, it is.
Conversations. You need to have conversations. You have to let people know, yes, I know you want the dollar, but especially like we enter in the hurricane season, you have to continue to converse. You have to continue to educate our people.
So do you get them to move back to the house that was provided?
You see, while we see the increasing sea level rise, people are seeing it and they say, oh, it's okay, I could still live in the house, I could still occupy it until such time, God forbids, that there is a very terrible hurricane and it completely washes away the homes. People will always want to go back to their traditional homes. And this also is connected with another project that the Ministry of Environment is working on with climate mobility and protecting people's right to stay. Here we are saying, we offered you an option to relocate. You're deeply connected to your grandparents and grandfather's yard and where you grew up, your navel string buried here, and you want to be here. And how can we protect that right to stay? Is it that we need to do a little bit more coastal engineering to protect you from the coast, or as Pierce said, a little bit more re-education of the benefits of relocating, even if you maintain this home, let's say just for gardening purposes. But it's a continuous conversation with people to get them to understand and appreciate the impact of climate change. But on the other hand, for us sustainable, it's saying, We don't have coastal lands available. We don't have urban lots available. You have to get accustomed to living in a countryside.
Rural living, yes.
And of course, St. Kitts and Nevis, just 68 square miles plus with Port Zante, and of course, the construction that was done at Old Road as well too. Would have gone out a bit more.
26 minutes from St. Paul's to town.
Right.
26.
Right. So it's not that big overall.
No, it's not so difficult to move around.
Yeah, I may come back to the coastal question because there's a follow-up that jumps to mind, but I wanted to give us enough time to focus on the important matters that you wanted to discuss here today. And I think we can probably start off with the announcement that you made, Minister, the last time you were here. That was in relation to housing lots in Cabbage Tree, Keon, and also Lemon Hill.
Good.
Okay.
So I'll let the peer start with the very technical, factual stuff, and then I'll come around about how we engage and engage and engage.
Okay. Let's start with Keon, as I said. Now, social media makes everything present, so everybody knows what is happening, or they think they know. We've seen this matter being played out on social media, the ministries being draconian, the ministry is doing this, the ministry is doing that. Let's look at the facts. Now, back in 2006, the Cabbage Tree area was designated as residential lands. We had phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 was developed, houses were built. Phase 2 was given out a little later. And between 2015 and 2022, phase 3 was given out, which is where the farm is. And so most of the persons, the 163 persons who purchased lands in phase 3 would have gotten it between the period of 2015 and 2022. So what happened? We now started to have some pushback from the landowners because the farm is there, they can't access the land, they can't access their property. Some of them already paid, some of them they couldn't survey, they have plans, the bank gave them loans, and then we started getting some pressure as well from the banks. And so the people are asking for the land, the banks are saying we've already loaned these people this money, the time for them to start to pay, but they haven't built. And so you realize we're having a challenge.
The question initially would be, well, how did these farms, how did they get occupied in the first place?
Because as I would have said, when the land was designated, the land was sold in stages. So stage 3 was sold between 2015 and 2022, which is where the farm is. So it's like, we're going to do housing there, but we don't need it yet. And so the farmers would have done their farming, but the land was sold. And so what happened? We started having confrontations. We started having conflicts. We started having people coming to the ministry angry. They want their land. All sorts of issues. They want their land. And so, in 2025, we identified this as one of the areas we had to tackle. What did I do? The first thing I did was to pay a visit to the farmer, because I prefer the personal touch. Before I do anything technical, let me have the personal touch. So I went to visit the farmer twice at her home. She wasn't there. I left messages, so she knew what I came for and everything. I called, no response. And so the ministry took the next step. I wrote, and the ministry asked the bailiff to assist. Now the bailiff, he just ensures that the letter is delivered. That's the purpose of the bailiff, just to ensure that the letter is delivered to whom the ministry intends. And so that was done. Still made no contact, no response from the farmer. The ministry had to do what it had to do. We had cases where one police officer came to the ministry very angry, and he said, I took my family to see our land, and we were confronted with machetes. It started going that way. And so the ministry really had to intervene. And so after we didn't get a response, I called her. And I said, could we have the conversation? And of course, the disrespect, the expletives. But I don't let that get to me. I said, well, let's still have the conversation. So we set up the meeting. I said, the meeting is going to be at this time, at this place. I had all the technical officers with me, waiting for the farmer to come. Did the farmer show up? Absolutely not. And so after many attempts, we had to turn the matter over to the Ministry of Agriculture because we were not getting the response that we wanted.
How That response that you mentioned, the fact that there were expletives that were exchanged, that there was no response to the summons that the bailiff delivered, no response.
No, the letter. The
letter.
The letter said to the farmer, when we write a letter, we said to the farmer, come on, you have to move. We are giving you the time and the date. We are giving you this time to move. But come into the ministry and let's have a conversation. Where do you want to go? This is what we expect that we would get from the farmers. And most of them comply, because we had situations like in Newton Ground. The farmers was like, sure, PS, let's have the conversation. We sent out officers, we met with them, we have discussions. So it's normally smooth. But for some reason, this particular matter was just chaotic. The farmer did not respond, and so the ministry had to turn the matter over to the Ministry of Agriculture.
How long was that exchange taking place from the initial contact when you went to?
The first contact when I went to visit was in April, and by the time I wrote the letter, I gave until I think it's the end of August to move.
What
Yes.
April? What 2020?
2025.
2025.
Yes, the first contact was in April. April, May, June, July. Okay. So we didn't get a response, and I'm talking about September when I called her again to set up the meeting. So in September, I'm saying, let's still have the conversation. Still no response. In October, no response. In November, I said to the Ministry of Agriculture, I realized that Christmas is coming. Every farmer would want to make $1. So I said, you know what, let me put this matter to rest until the year ends. I love the farmers to do what they needed to do. January, so they would have been informed that at the end of the year, that is our ultimate time. Do not replant. January, we got photos from our drones. They're planting again, even though they knew that we were going to move them. And so the ministry, we had to again write, we had to again call, same response. In March, I got a letter from a lawyer representing the farmer, indicating that they gave us a day. I got the letter the Thursday afternoon, and by Friday they expected me to respond to say that to revoke the plan to move the farm and everything. Well, the ministry has this legal team, which is the legal department, so I would have turned the matter over to the legal department. By Monday afternoon, that's the end of March now, the lawyer at the legal department called and said, P.S., we have to go to court because an injunction is going to be filed against the ministry. That's about 12 o'clock I got the message. The case was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I had all the files. So that was a very easy reaction for me. I just simply pulled the file, took it down to the lawyer, and we went to the court. The court ruled against the farmer. Even though it is she who took the matter to court, the court ruled against her. And so the court set the date of April, I think it was April 16th or 18th, for her to move. The court set the final date. So the Facebook had do and all of everything. It was the court who set that date. Even though she took us to the court, it was the court who set that time. And so that was basically the ultimatum. And that is why the minister could have declared that the land was now available for its real owners.
Before you come in, Minister, how many housing lots were designated?
163 lots have been sold.
163 lots.
Yes.
And that would not necessarily just be individuals, your families you're talking about.
Of course. And that's the thing. I mean, it's 163 lots, but it's 163 families. It's construction being delayed. It spills off. Because remember, when you're talking about construction, you're talking about the economy. So it's so many people would have been affected by that decision.
And I'm paying money for land that I can't, that is rightfully mine.
Exactly.
That I can't access.
So it was, I mean, it's not even, most of it is not even the ministry land anymore because we already sold it. The ministry sold it between 2015 and 2022. It's the people's land. And the people had every right to access their land. Yes.
Great, and I'm really happy that PS could give that factual and chronological context because it's important when we are responding, because we opted not to respond to unscrupulous characters on social media who would want to politicize this experience and make it seem as if the ministry was being unfair to a particular farmer. No. We have always maintained that engagement and conversation would be our modus operandi when it comes to development issues, consultation with farmers, consultations with the planning board, approval from the police, support from the defense force, and always engagement. I'm really happy that it was the PS who led on this because she is very patient and very diplomatic in terms of having the ongoing, and she's often in the courts because we always have to defend our position, and our position is clear. And this is just a general position, philosophical position. One person ought not to interrupt the life and livelihood of 163 families. 163 families with an average household size of 4, that's almost 400, 500 plus persons who are delayed in having their home that they paid for. I think the last time I was moved and I told the PS the end, we had a young lady who came in and she was near tears. She said, I've paid. I paid an architect for a plan. I'm at the planning board and I have temporary approval because this farmer is there, fenced in all of the land, not cultivating the majority of the land. And I have a mortgage that's waiting on me. And we developed a whole land policy to empower young people. And we're saying to them, we give you land, but no, because we have no teeth, we can't move a farmer. And it's not just moving a farmer, you know, Ian, it's relocating, land preparation based on your preference, where you want to go. It's agriculture making a commitment to give you the farm implements. It's having a timeline that's based on your planting and harvesting. And it's you recognizing that you occupy the land, understanding and knowing that at some point you had to move. So what would be the need for any unscrupulous character and any politician to come and say, oh, you know, so they're treating you so poorly? You're terrible. Because you know that the ministry wouldn't do this, and you're using people and their plight, their wrong actions for political gain, and it's not going to work, at least not today.
But the land was sold under him.
Under the former prime minister.
He sold it. He sold the farm. That's the coincidence.
The question one would really
that
jumps out is where would you even have a short-term farming location set up? Really, is there no other farming area that was there where the person could have access and set up their farm permanently?
Well, because I know the situation intimately, the farmer would have gone there because originally the farmer who was there would have known that he had only 1 year. But then the farmer passed, and so she just continued, right? But she knew that the land was for residential purpose. She knew there was no ifs and buts about it. There was no ifs and buts about it.
And this is a traditional practice, Ian, and it's not something that's frowned upon in any way by the ministry or the Ministry of Agriculture. Sometimes people, we have a practice of wanting to cultivate very close to where we live. In the communities, there are abandoned lots, you know, you just want to make use of it. But you do so knowing that your entire farming should be short term. There should be no tree crops, because you're going to have to uproot them. Don't plant coconut trees. If you're going to invest in banana and planting, you have to know that you're going to have to uproot them or replant them. So you have to be mindful of the investments that you opt to put in your farm when you are not farming with a lease, a long-term lease, or unapproved agricultural lands.
Right, okay. And so the notice went out that persons can go ahead now and begin to develop their lands.
I wonder if we should do another notice right now. We need to just let people know that you are free to go to Cabbage Tree, Phase 3, and develop your lots. You are free. And I think what I want to say here, Ian, is that there are quite a few, I keep using the word unscrupulous, because you have no scruples if you want to politicize certain things like that, who want to use farmers against the government. And we have to be mindful that farmers have sense, and farmers understand and appreciate that this government has been working with them. So no matter the efforts to form them in a cooperative or have them publicize, oh, the government isn't doing it, we have been working. It's been 4 years of intense and committed work.
Certainly.
And so the characters are in and out of government, and they are connected in whichever way they are, trying to make it seem as if the ministries of agriculture and sustainable development are not working for the betterment of the farming population, but we are. The commitments have been there, the support has been there from both sides of the ministry, and the Ministry of Sustainable Development has been engaging continuously with the Ministry of Agriculture. So regardless of what people try, we're going to be here to prove and show that we're doing the work.
Right, and so that was the issue related to
K-On,
and then there's also Lemon Hill as well too?
Yes, we also had a very similar situation in Lemon Hill, similarly different. similarly different. In this case, this farmer came into the ministry. He got the same letter. The letter was written the same process. But this farmer came to the ministry and said, P.S., what should I do? Guide me, help me, show me what my next step would be. Now, what a different approach. And so what did the ministry do? He said, yes. So we went down on his farm. Got there, he built a 3-story house on the land. Yes, on somebody's land. But the point is, he cooperated. So I said to him, in this case, you already have a house. He said, I have to knock it down. I said, no, I'm going to sell you that land. And I'm going to move the person who was there originally, put them somewhere else. And so we were able to see what he was doing. And he was saying, look, Pierce, I've already moved from this area here, so you can have this. But I have my crops still. They're not going to be ready until about September. I said, no problem. I'll wait. So I give you until October to do what you have to do and harvest. By then, we would have transitioned him somewhere else. And if October comes and the farmer is not ready, he needs a few more weeks, I'll allow him to stay there. Because the approach is so different. So he cooperated. And so that's why we encourage the farmers to work with the ministry. Coming to fight us, and it's not helping. And going on social media, it's not helping. Let's have the conversation, because we're asking you, how can we help you? That's what the ministry is doing. How can we help you?
It's the bottom of the hour.
Yes,
just so like that.
We're going to have to take a break, and I think I'll make this just the first and the last break before we continue our discussion, because there is also an issue in relation to land regularization and freehold license that I think we need to touch on next, and so we'll do that right after this break. Yes. So right there, viewers and listeners, we'll be right back with more in Focus.
Money is for buying snacks.
Kids have big dreams.
My mom says to save it.
Let's give them the tools to reach them.
I'm going to invest in something called stocks.
1,000 easy dollars for every St. Kitts and Nevis youth citizen. Savings, investments, financial education. Sign up for Aspire at aspire.gov.kn, because they deserve to dream smart.
Thanks, Aspire.
Welcome back to InFocus. We continue our discussion with the Minister responsible for social development and her permanent secretary. That would be, sustainable development. Because of course there's always that link between social, there's that social aspect
very
as well.
Very closely with them, very closely.
So apologies to the Honorable Dr. Joyelle, Clarke, and Sherilita, Dore-Tyson, permanent secretary. We mentioned land regularization and freehold license. Let's talk a bit about that.
Certainly. You want to start?
Okay.
Or I can start.
Well, you will explain all of that, but I'll just mention that land regularization, now this is one of our initiatives. Now we have subdivisions, which is the new addition to the villages, and we have what we call the older villages. For example, in Keon, Wade Street, Warner Street, Osborne Street, that's a substantial village, the Keon community. And so what we found is that most of the people who live in these areas, they have houses, but they don't own the land. Yeah. And so we are regularizing. What does that mean? We are saying to the village people, come and buy the land. You've lived there for 30 years. Your grandmother have lived there. Buy the land. That is land regularization. Now, the minister will talk about the other one, which is the village freehold, and then we'll see the differences.
Right, that you spoke about? The
yes.
Village freehold.
What we spoke of, no, that is land regularization. You're buying the land that you're using.
Right.
But the village freehold, that is an act, and that involves persons who live on the land up to 1967. Now, that was passed by the Labour government back in 1995. So, if you live on the land up to 1995, up to 1967, you have the opportunity to get the land without cost up to 5,000 square feet. Now, that most of us, that would be our parents, because that was the whole purpose of empowering our parents and grandparents. Most of the times our parents, but many of them would have passed, and so we are also granting that to their offspring.
Right.
So if you live on the land up to 1967, your grandparents she has been there forever, your grandmother has been there forever, you can apply for village freehold.
And most persons may not recognize until the person passes, wait, there is no certificate of title.
Most of the cases, in most of the villages, there are some villages that they never own the land at all.
Right.
And so we're giving you the opportunity now to own the land.
Yes, in my community, for example, even on my street where my mother lived, she reached out to Allah. She said, "Oh, I want to do it." And she recognized that she hasn't been, because my grandmother was there before and she's here. She needs to be there at least 30-something years on her own. I had a neighbor who came to me and she said, we made payments, but we don't have any titles, so what do we do? And this is people who were when CHA transitioned to NHC, they lost their document, they had it, there was a hurricane, and the ministry continuously reaches out to people and say, you can go to a lawyer, you can write directly to us, but this process is available so that you can have that title to transition to another family member. The important thing we should also mention here is when we did the squatter regularization program in Amsterdam and New Amsterdam, in Upper Monkey Hill and in Lagreed, it was also part of this recognition that persons have been on these lands for how many years? In Amsterdam, definitely, fully qualified, up to 30 plus years. Upper Monkey Hill, Prime Minister would say to you 100 times that 100 years families have lived on the same land. And then we have the folks in New Amsterdam, St. Paul's, who also were on the lots for an extended period that we had to make a commitment to provide them with the land regularization. Now we have a few other communities reaching out to us saying, hey, come and look at us. What they need to do is make sure they can access through the village freehold. So everybody doesn't need a squatter regularization program. We already did the assessment. We know where the other areas are. And I think that one of the last few spots we have to do is in Sadlers. The pasture Sadlers that we are going to do. Now, in all of these new developments, Ian, especially, let's say, for example, New Amsterdam, we regularize an area, and if you were squatting, you may not have access to water, to electricity. We've done the engagement with these communities and said to them, the next step for electricity, and I want to be very clear on this, especially for New Amsterdam, because if you construct a settlement without planning permission, if your design doesn't go to the planning board and you construct your settlement, to have it approved after construction, you need to apply for an as-built assessment, which means that we're going to come, we're going to look at what you have, we're going to have an electrician check it out, and we're going to say, yeah, you're safe for electricity installation. Because if we do it on our own and there's a problem with your wiring, if you didn't use a certified electrician, you might have a problem. Similarly, Amsterdam, New Amsterdam, like several areas across the country, we are working to install water, install lighting. So New Amsterdam has now become one of the communities, just like Willets East in St. Paul's or Cabbage Tree, etc., where we now have to, Halfway Tree, where we now have to go through the process with Skelec and the Ministry of Finance to finance the installation of electricity for these folks. But we are working very closely with these communities to ensure they know that the ministry, we started a process. We're not going to leave you. We're going to stay with you until every person in these new communities receive the utilities access.
So that is without charge?
No. PS will tell you. I'll just start by saying, electricity installation in a community, like let's say one person writes and say, I would like electricity installed on my property. We can get a quote from Skelec for that one building for over $200,000 plus. Most of us would have paid $40,000 maximum for our lots. If it's an NHC 5,000 square feet lot, $20,000. The electricity for your lot and the adjoining lots would be over $200,000. So you could imagine the scale when we have multiple communities, developments in each constituency. Nobody in St. Kitts and Nevis pays for the cost of electricity, the cost of roads, the cost of utilities. It is a commitment made under the Special Land Initiative program by the former Labour administration, where they knew and understood that development, having somewhere to live, was 10 times more important than having other things. So put it in, sell the land at this cost because we want the people of St. Kitts to access land. We can never sell land at its true cost, because if you include the cost of electricity, water, and roads inland, when nobody in St. Kitts going to own land, and land is our right as per Robert Bradshaw, His Excellent Sir Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw. So we can't undo it.
And that is why we have people coming and it's like, how much square foot? That says $3. And they don't believe. $3. There's nowhere else in the Caribbean that sells land for $3 per square foot. But to install electricity, Minister, how much we paid recently? I think it's $1.5 million.
$1.5 million.
I gave Clarke about a month ago. $1.5 million, because we are trying to put it in as many communities. We can't do it all one time. Of course, I have my restrictions. But you're trying your very best to put in the electricity, to put in the water. So, Keon, we are working on Keon, Hermitage Highlands. That's a very dense new subdivision. That has over 500 lots. And so, what we try to do now with Clarke, if somebody on lot 150 wants electricity, I say to Clarke, give me the cost to do the whole area, to run the line right down to the end of the project, and then we connect accordingly, so that I don't have to be going back and paying for Tom and then paying for, you understand? Right. So you try to find creative ways to maximize the benefit, the economic benefits, because it's not cheap. The average land in St. Kitts is 5,000 square feet. Multiply 5,000 by $3. That's 15,000. But it's going to cost me 100 and something thousand to put in your house.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge.
I had a conversation with a young man. He was wondering, he's 21, I think, no, 24. He was 24, and he was saying he needs to get a piece of land. And he was like, I wonder how much it would cost. And someone who was in the conversation said it's going to be expensive.
It's not, though. Unless you plan to buy land over the Southeast Peninsula at 10, whatever the cost is, it's way inexpensive to access land here in St. Kitts in the countryside, and where we have it. Of course, nothing in life free and nothing cheap good. So you really have to pay pay your money for what you want. But the ministry, even at 21, once we could see, what's your plan, where are you going, we work with you. We have intimate conversations with people when they come to the ministry, and we're going to be there tomorrow, Thursday.
Yes.
We're closing out the first part of the summer with our meeting, and then we're going to be back again in 2 weeks. We are there to facilitate this conversation, and if you come to us and you say, I am ready to build immediately, I've been pre-approved from the bank for an NHC house immediately. In fact, I have one message in my phone now from NHC to don't forget this person's land, and we're going to deal with it, because the person just got their approval from the bank, and so tomorrow immediately they're getting their land letter. That's what we're trying to facilitate, the housing revolution, the construction, and that's the role of the ministry.
It seems like we needed a part 2 of this discussion. Just to land as well. So,
you can come back.
I do want to mention the situation in New Guinea as you speak about social media and trying to make persons aware of the position of the government. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, the situation in New Guinea. Now, the New Guinea subdivision started about 27 years ago.
Commercial subdivision.
The commercial subdivision, about 27 years ago. And we have one particular person who is in that subdivision. And when I looked at the revenue that is generated from that subdivision, it is zero, zilt, nada. Now, that person is supposed to be leasing the land from the government. The business occupies over 26.8 acres of land. But in all the years, they've been there for almost 25 years, but no payment. Absolutely no payment. Nothing is in the treasury. And so the ministry had to make a decision. I mean, Ian, I'm no pastor, but I know that there's a scripture that says, it's somewhere in Luke, I think it's Luke what? Is it 17? It says, render unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things which are God's.
So you're not a pastor?
I'm not a pastor. I'm not a pastor. I'm a sinner. But what I'm saying is that means that just as you have a spiritual obligation, you must have a national obligation as well. And so what we find is that we have some people in St. Kitts who want to benefit from the government without paying back the taxes, without paying back the leases. Now, when you do not pay, you have to understand that the government uses this to support the social programs. That's where our healthcare system runs. That's where the feeding programs run. That's where the carding home runs. All of these social programs, they come from your leases and taxes. And so when you refuse to pay, you can't come and dictate to me as a PS what you want. And you have not paid for almost 25 years. And so I said, well, fine, let's establish a lease. And so we established a lease. And for our normal rate for leasing of 1 acre of land is $4,000 per month. And so the government is saying $75,000 per year. That's way below the expected amount.
Because you said it's 28 or 26?
Yes, and now recently there was a request for us to reconfigure the land. And so rather than the land going from the road up to the hill, they've asked us to reconfigure, to turn it around. And so we've given them the land on the side and moved the persons on this side to the back. So it's going to be 27.1 acres total. And we are saying, you want the land to continue using the land, pay the lease. You've had 25 free years. It's time. Right. It's time. And pay the seabed lease as well, because we have something called a seabed lease. As long as you have a pier, we charge you $4,000 per month. All the other companies that have piers, that's what they pay. And so we took a stand.
Yeah. 108,000. If you're saying $4,000 per acre.
Yes.
Right. So 27.1. That would be $108,000
per month.
Per month.
Because it's $4,000 per month. But we are giving you a per annum cost. We are saying to you, listen, okay, we recognize it's a business. We recognize you have employees. We recognize everything, and we recognize you're making millions as well. Pay us $75,000 for the year.
So let me just do the quick math.
It's about $6,250 per month for 27 acres of land, compared to other folks who lease 1 acre of land for $4,000.
So we compromise.
Yeah. And so I would want to say here, Ian, that I received a voice note from a fisher just 3 weeks ago. And the voice note says to me, you know, it seems like we are being asked or told to pressure you, the government, so that this lease could go through to that person's benefit. And we're being told that if there's a hurricane, that the company is only going to take foreign boats. They have no space for local boats. Pressure. Unnecessary pressure and fear for whose advantage? So that the government could, move on the lease, reduce the cost. And for me, when you waste people's time and you send multiple videos with lies, and then you make a mistake and send them to my phone, knowing that I'm on every email thread, I am there facilitating, I am the one in cabinet lobbying and reading the documentation. PS is there with the Attorney General office working on this. How do you, if you're not an unscrupulous person, but clearly you are, go and tell fisher folk, we ain't taking your boat, you're in a foreign person. We can't help you if there's a storm because we can't get the lease arranged the way that we want. Knowing you've not paid a thing on your lease, you have created conflict, you have threatened folks.
Oh, yes.
And then you want to make it difficult for the government. Well, who playing that game with you? We are not. Our position here as a Ministry of Sustainable Development is fairness. You want access to government land? Pay your lease. You are using the seabed, you must have a seabed lease. It's just the law. It's not something that we cannot do. We can't do it for one and not for the other. So whether you're in the Southeast Peninsula or you're in Deep Bay, you're using the seabed, there is a lease that you pay that comes with it. And naturally, we are going to, and the ministry, despite all the rumors, despite all the negativity, despite the pressure, despite our cell phone numbers being shared with hundreds of official folk to send us all kind of hilarious and threatening messages, we have still accommodated every single time the request of this particular company to accommodate, to facilitate, to ensure that the project and that business succeeds. But this is the nature of this development. We weren't afraid when we were told that we were going to manage sustainable development. We knew that it was going to be hard knocks, but we're here for it because we're here to work.
What's the resolution?
The resolution is we are going to
issue
lease
the
is
lease.
going to be
Yes.
accepted.
We've
And
started,
the,
yes.
the redesign has been completed.
Yes.
And we are going to work with whichever lots, commercial lots, are affected, because we appreciate that the topography of the land there would make it much easier for boats to move from onshore with flatter lands, and we're facilitating it regardless of the fact that next week another video might come out saying we this and we that. We know via email that you and I are reading the same threads, and you and I are facilitating this process to ensure that your business thrives. What you're going to say to the local fisher folk who you have said to them, they matter if a hurricane come, you ain't taking their boats. Well, that's between them and you. But I know that this government would facilitate any local fisherman wherever we can, should that business decide only foreign folks should come to that port.
And Ian, I have to add, the ministry is here to support. The ministry is here to assist. We are not here for the fight. When you're taking up my energy trying to fight me and trying to send my number to all sorts of people, and people call me the whole week and I have to turn off the phone, constant harassment. When you do that, you're taking me away from the work. You're psychologically taking me away from the work. We are not here to fight you. We are here to assist you. And so you're asking for the new orientation. We have done that. But it's not going to be on your terms, and you are not paying. It's not going to be on your terms. We are going to give you the lease. This is what is going to happen. You must pay.
But
You
the
must
lease is
pay.
going to be, the fee is going to be established at a reduced rate, as mentioned.
We have already done that. We've sent all of that to legal.
Yes,
Do
yes.
you even think it's fair for 26 acres at 6,000 where you don't have to answer?
Right.
The public will answer.
Right.
Do you think it's fair?
Let me just move on, Minister. Our theme, of course, is resolving land conflicts through partnership and planning. And so we've been talking a bit about how the ministry has been working with partners to ensure that things get done, basically.
Of course.
The St. Christopher National Trust. Now, that is another issue that has caused some concern for the public. It's been boarded up for many, many, many years.
Yes,
What's
it
happening
has.
there?
It has. Let me say, the ministry has an obligation to organizations such as that. When we got to office first, it was, I think, $14,000. It's something you call a subvention. So we assist them. And so it was 14,000. I moved it up to 17,000. So every month, the Ministry of Sustainable Development gives the national just $17,000 per month. They help their staff or whatever they're doing. We do not get involved in the management of the trust. We are like a partner. We are a partner. In 2023, I had meetings with the leadership, and I said to them, you're planning renovations, let's make this a capital project. And so I inserted it as a capital project, $1 million. Now, the trust would have gone ahead, hired the people they want to. We do not have any say in that. All we did was to provide the funds. And so this year, I see some work being done. They would just send a report, PS, this is what is happening. I would update the minister, I would update the cabinet. But we do not involve ourselves in that in any way. I am aware that they are having some challenges. I got a letter saying that the contract has been what?
Ended.
Yes.
Ended. But the thing here is, as PS rightly said, we provide the financial support, we provide the policy support where needed, but the trust and its board has full decision-making powers.
So the contract was ended without the work being completed?
Well, I don't want to get deeply into the details, but what I do know is that the trust has made a serious commitment to get the work completed. I think the new board completed all of its investigations and realized that the contract was not working in the favor of the National Trust. And even now, I'm using this opportunity to say to the people of St. Kitts and even to the visitors who are inconvenienced by it being boarded up for so many years, that it's no fault of any one person in particular. The work, the monitoring, the specific technical skill that's required for treatment with limestone there in the building, it was very technical. But what we are happy with the ministry's intervention and support, that from the capital project that the PS had the foresight to put in, we are able to support the completion of this construction. We even got support, I think, from the Prime Minister's office and the Cabinet Secretariat it's a national treasure, and it's something that has to be completed. And we're hoping that with this new board and the new leadership and the the decision that they just recently took, that a new team of contractors coming on board would get this project to completion. So we're asking the people of St. Kitts for a little patience.
Yes,
we're
bear with
thanking
us a
them for the
little
grace.
bit. Yes, yes.
We are sorry that it has taken so long, but we have made every effort to support this project, but we just now need the right person on board.
Yes.
Minister, just about 5 minutes left, but you do have to ask a question about something that is an eyesore to many persons who travel the country, and including persons, of course, who come off the cruise ship. House after house, building after building, left abandoned in St. Kitts.
We have a serious issue. It is a serious issue.
How do you
indeed.
fix that issue?
Yeah.
Well, it's a ministerial approach that is needed. We have I think I had a conversation with Honorable Minister Duggins the other day about challenges, and he told me 60% of the houses in challenges are unoccupied.
60%.
60%. Because we were looking at how we can access the lands, we are selling the lands there at Toyan Heights. And so I was asking him, how do I get a road there? And he said, but 60% of the houses in challenges, we have it as well in Sadlers. Almost, I think 3 or so streets, nobody live on those streets. The houses are abandoned. So it's a serious problem. And we have to look at environment, you have to look at sustainable and every other health. It's a multi-ministerial approach to solving this matter.
But you do know, with the passage of the Community Beautification and Safety Bill, we are now able, we have the legislative support to actually deal with the houses. So in our last senior management team, we discussed the establishment of the CBS authority that then allows the a combined board authority with sustainable environment, in legal, etc., to go into the communities. You're sending out a task force, you go into communities, you identify the lots that are seriously problematic. We clean them 1, 2, 3 times. It's placed against your property tax. If you don't come and claim or pay, it then goes to abatement, and then the government can recover its costs. But the intent of the bill was to deal with these abandoned lots, but then we realized the execution of such is so expensive and so huge that we had to, as PSA, bring all ministries on board: inland revenue, small businesses, parks and beaches, the Ministry of Health. So it's a serious coordination that this new authority or board has to do.
Yes. We
are submitting it for capital support, and hopefully in January 2027 we can go forth and execute. But the ministry, in testing how we do this, has already started this work. So whenever people call about a problematic area, we go out into the community, we get our Environment for Everyone task force out, and we clean and we see how much does it cost, what did the homeowners say, because it's only when you start to chop on somebody land you realize it has an owner.
Oh yes, this one nippy.
Only when you start to cut one bush and the owner show up. And so we realize that is also a way of bringing out who's responsible. And some of them need legal support because they didn't settle the appearance estate, they don't have any executor for the will, and so the land belongs to no one, and the government would then definitely have to take over.
I just penciled you in for January 2027.
You have to, because Ian, up to now, you have not asked us about what we are doing immediately. We haven't been able to tell you that we have given out 313 lots so far for the year, even though we haven't given out any large swath of land, but we have been able to look within the subdivisions. We've given 313 lots. Our focus right now is commercial, and the minister can quickly mention that we are giving out lots for commercial purposes. Minister, you can
Yes, so is this my closing statement?
Well, just about 2 minutes left.
Do you have a last question for me?
Well, generally, it's just based on the lots that are given out. A question that everyone would ask is, how do I apply for land?
Oh, okay.
So, but deal with the commercial part, and then you can rope that in.
So, of course, so the commercial lots, we recognize that we had a challenge in terms of, everybody knows that everybody who wants commercial land wants commercial land at Lemke. It's totally full. We are being creative in terms of redesigning some of the larger lots to allow for smaller allocations, but I'm so happy that the ministry was able to develop 2 additional commercial lot spaces behind our existing ministry, Bladen's Commercial Park,
yes,
as well, Court,
yes,
as well as the Royal Bastia Valley
Yes.
Commercial Park.
Yes.
Just across the road heading to Cooley's Commercial. And we did that to ensure that people, and it's no longer 1 acre, 2 acre lots, it's 10,000 square feet, everybody pays the same standard price, and you develop, and we are very specific with persons. You must have your business plan, you must have fully all your documents, and we are making land available to you. By the end of the year, I'm making this commitment, applications for land will be online. P.S. You heard that?
Oh, yes,
The
Minister.
end of the year, the end. That's how you apply for land. There's a form, you say what you want, we do the assessment, somebody contacts you, we do the processing, you get a letter for the assignment, you go and do the survey, you come back, you get your price. But 34 seconds, I just need to say that it has been a pleasure working with the Ministry of Sustainable Development on the land matters in particular. And I've said before, I said it in Parliament, that we're at this time where everybody has to make a transition. And I'm very hopeful that the good work that we have done has been recognized, the support and empowerment that we have given to the people of St. Kitts and the different communities is recognized and acknowledged. And if the people want, I am so happy to come and serve in yet another position to make sure that empowerment, livelihoods, and development happens for St. Kitts and Nevis.
Very quickly. Housing lots, a house as opposed to an apartment. How is that done?
Housing lots.
As in an individual house, as opposed to an apartment, like such as what NHC has constructed.
Right, and so NHC is doing urban renewal. So they're looking at lots in inner city communities and seeing how they could turn that one lot into a multi-dwelling building,
Right.
Multi-levels, multi-families. A full urban renewal program in partnership with
Yes.
NHC, urban development, sustainable. Housing lots we're giving all over the country.
Right.
But we've said to people over and over, there will come a time when we have to get accustomed to multi-story buildings, vertical,
living.
because the lots have to get smaller and more people have to live, because we want the population to grow.
Right.
And land is an infinite resource. No,
Finite
resource.
Yes.
And so we have to ensure that instead of giving people just like commercial land, a full 2 acres, you get 10,000, and we're encouraging you to build upwards and make space for rental for other persons who may not have the resources to purchase 10,000 square feet, but can rent a unit from you.
Right, I'm going to make a commitment to have you back again sometime before the year ends. We have to discuss, as EPS mentioned, some of these
As soon
things.
as we have that online application, we're coming to launch it right here on InFocus. You have my
wonderful.
guarantee.
So in our month of sustainability, we're going to aim for that
And
in
what
October.
month is that?
So yes, I'm going to aim for that.
What month is that? Is that
Month of
October.
sustainability is in October.
Right,
And we have a number of new initiatives that we didn't even get to touch on, so
Right.
we'll wait for that time.
All right, so I put it down here, October.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Minister and PS, for being with us again. We certainly look forward to welcoming you back in October.
The ministry is your friend. Come to the ministry. Let's have the conversations. Work together. Find solutions.
Absolutely. We'd like to thank you, viewers and listeners, for joining us for this edition of InFocus. We trust that you'll join us next week at the same place, at the same time for another edition. Our guest will be the Financial Secretary, Carlton Parkson, and he'll be discussing the recent IMF report. Until then, we'll see you. I'm Ian Richards.
Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.